Welsh, also Brooks, and someone else.
Someone else.
This feels too tall.
It is too tall.
Back in the ring. Next 10 years.
It goes out. No, it's down below. There you go.
Oh, these.
It is garage work. That's really nice. You make the argument that if it's up high, they won't stand in front of like see it when they stand.
No, because you don't want to like Bigfoot them, you know. What do we think?
It's the best sign I've ever seen.
Do we think too far?
Oh.
How many people?
4.
Schumer take a question. Just like you took questions yesterday. Okay, sorry. You know, it doesn't have any what?
Is it that shady? Senate TV gallery. Well, it's that is the tariffs.
That's what's important.
Are you in
Hawaii and
Yes. I am very excited. Our family's
True. Not yet.
I'll go to New York.
That's
on Friday. That's what it is. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, it's a really good tournament. Yeah. It's actually, I think it's better than the men's this year. The men's has been a little, yeah. The men's has been kind of like, because they're all, the players are all getting paid and moving around. Yeah. Like, very predictable. So, yeah. Who's your team? I do on the favorite for no like real reason. I was rooting for FC because it's my life. Yeah. So, have you watched the Netflix series? What is it called? On Point? Running Point. Yes. What is it? It's really good. It's about like a woman who were professional men. Oh, it's Kate Hudson show. Oh, I saw that. Yeah, love it. Okay. It goes down like. I know, I can't watch YouTube series nowadays. No, it's not. It's very, it's got like a sort of Emily and
If it's anything serious, it's
Which show is
something
this?
that's like a running point. Yes, running point. I really like it.
Yeah, right? I love it.
We'd like the leader to speak to us from the proceeding.
Has anyone ever?
I do think it's funny when Mark said it.
Has anyone ever delivered remarks from
No,
this?
I'm not really sure what. I think it's maybe
Just to keep
I
us
think it's
back.
just a buffer for us. Yes.
I think we should all stick like school children
the only time I get to
across
say
our
proceeding.
legs. Yeah, right. Just like
Everything else is stories.
Yeah, so my friend,
story time style.
I was doing it for him, like, you can, good luck.
You would go?
Or you get money.
I don't know if it's worth the trip.
I went to the last concert before, and it was I spent probably 400 seats. It's not worth it.
Oh, really?
It's not worth
I
it.
think it's such a good bummer.
It was a NASCAR
there's like one, once you're not in a,
They were like,
oh, okay. Well, like once you're not in a seat, it doesn't really matter if you're in the 300 level or the 500 level because you're like watching on the screen, you know.
But that's how I felt on the floor. Watching on the screen anyway.
Yeah.
yeah, like they were like,
I felt new. But I also, I do myself.
So what makes the first one taken down for sale?
No, not at all. No, no. I think
She got the lease. So she got the clothes. So she was like, "Oh,
but I never did. We talked and follow
so
up.
you're able to get them there.
I have to meet.
Well, I saw it before too. Because one of my friends, her parents had I know like tickets for so they I said this her parents got the
I saw them Friday, which is fine. Like I saw both of them Saturday.
so I had it and then I lost so like you know
Mr. Welch and Mr. Kane are here, but their friends
They may come in.
are in preparation.
We will see them now. Yeah.
Oh, not reconciliation, like,
It's like,
you know,
not,
tax
like not
suspense.
here, it's like, you could, like, get along with people that, right? A bunch of people should really learn about this. Yeah.
Tax suspension happened now, so I rotate for you all.
Yes. 21st century. It's quality. Yeah. It's pretty sharp. Yeah. Yeah. It's not a problem. Did you ever use the Sony? No. The original Sony has a much greater the Sony. Focus is just on sure.
From here. Chart. Okay. Excuse me. Good afternoon, everybody. And I want to thank Senators Kane and Welch and also Brooks for joining us here today as we fight against Trump's trade war, as you see right here. This map has how much each state would pay for this absurd, crazy, chaotic trade war. But the worst thing about it is that it so hurts American families. It is estimated that the average American family will pay more than $5,000 out of their pocket to pay for these tariffs. These tariffs will cost them $5,000 as the prices of everything goes up, whether it's groceries or cars or wood or you name it, across the board. Why would Trump do this? Why would Trump do this? One reason. He wants to take the money that he gains from tariffs to give tax cuts to billionaires. And when told that American families would pay a whole lot more out of their pockets, you know what he said? I don't care. What kind of bubble is this man and his billionaire cohorts in that they don't understand that when the average American family is told that you're going to have to pay $5,000 more for the things you buy, that it pains them so? Well, can't buy that new car. Can't take that vacation we've been planning for a whole year with the kids. Can't go visit Grandma. Got to cut back on even the medicines I buy. What kind of bubble do they live in? So we have documented in this chart how much each state would pay from Trump's trade war. And it's devastating. I just talked to over 50 people in my state of New York. We're right on the Canadian border. Buffalo thinks they could go into a real recession if these tariffs came about. Plattsburgh, 20% of their businesses are Canadian-owned. What are they going to do? And there are tens of thousands of job losses in every part of New York State because there are tariffs. They are a tax on families. They don't like taxes? This is one of the worst taxes they could put in. And don't just listen to us. Rand Paul, hardly a Democrat. Tariffs are simply a tax. Senator Mullen, tariffs is a tax. He didn't have the right grammar, but I'll read him verbatim. Tariffs is a tax, and it will be passed on to consumers. According to the New York Times, 6.5 million jobs would be impacted by the Canadian tariffs, and people in red states will be especially impacted, from farmers to small businesses. And here's another problem. It's chaotic. He says one thing one day and another thing the next day. He changes which countries, he changes the percentage, he changes which goods. And what do businesses hate? Uncertainty. Whether you're a small business, a medium-sized business, a large business, you want certainty. There's no certainty. That's why the stock market has gone down so much. Consumers, why is their confidence at lower levels than it's been in a very long time? In good part, because of these tariffs. They say if I'm going to have to pay more for eggs or for bread or for gas or for a car, I better not spend now. So it's creating huge problems in the whole economy. So soon, the Senate will vote on a resolution from Senator Kaine to undo Trump's tariffs on Canadian goods, and we hope that some of our Republican colleagues will join us in that. They don't like the tariffs either. They know they're a tax hike on the American people. They know that the stock market is in turmoil, risking people's retirements. They know that consumer confidence is down. And the odds of a recession, something people hate. It's harder to find a job, keep a job, maintain your weekly budget if a recession occurs. And now our greatest financial prognosticators are saying the chances of recession because of these tariffs, this tariff tax, goes way up. So we're going to fight these tariffs tooth and nail. Trump's done a lot of bad things. This is way up there. Ask American people. And one final thing. Look at what happened in Wisconsin yesterday. The American people understand that Trump is not on their side on tariffs, on tax cuts for billionaires, on cutting Medicaid, on cutting the others. The American people are seeing how bad Trump is. Tariffs is a good part of it, and they are not supporting people like Elon Musk and those who support Donald Trump. Tim.
Thank you to Leader Schumer for being a great partner in this effort. And here we are. It's an unusual procedure. There are not many things where even one senator can file a motion that will be guaranteed a floor vote. But the crafters of this legislation, the International Emergencies Act, believed that while a president might need to declare an emergency, that should not go unchallenged if members of Congress felt like, hold on a second, let's get this right. No one is denying that there's a fentanyl challenge in the United States, a huge challenge. We've all seen it in all of our states, And that is why this is not an action to undo the Mexico tariffs or undo the China tariffs. You might argue about whether the emergency is one that where tariffs is the right answer, but clearly the fentanyl trade is being heavily driven through Mexico or precursor chemicals from China. But Canadian tariffs are not the answer to the solution because the fentanyl problem is not primarily a Canadian problem. There's an article that's out in the Globe and Mail today that digs into the disparities, 21,000 pounds of fentanyl seized from Mexico coming across the border last year. And there's a claim that there's 43 pounds seized from Canada, but the article that's just come out from the Globe and Mail suggests it's actually a good bit less even than 43 pounds. Is there work that we should and need to do together on fentanyl? Of course, Chuck led us to pass the Halt Fentanyl bill in the Senate just 2 weeks ago, and there's more we can do. But this is not about fentanyl. It's about tariffs. It's about a national sales tax on American families. Trump's economic advisor, Peter Navarro, said that the total of these tariffs will be $6 trillion of taxes paid by American consumers, more than $600 billion a year. I've told the story of this baker that I have in Virginia. April is her name. She owns a bakery. Some of you might know this place. It's called Mom's Apple Pie. Now, is this a good thing for a speech in the Senate recording studio? Mom's Apple Pie Bakery. April owns it. 3 locations: Loudon, Purcellville, Occoquan. I was with her recently. She said, "Damn, you got to do something about these Canadian tariffs." And I said, "April, you got these 3 little bakeries. I mean, Canadian tariffs, how do they affect you?" Pie tins. All aluminum pie tins. They all come from Canada. You increase the price of a pie tin by 25%.
And it's even worse if you have a can of beer with your apple pie.
There you go. Or try some whiskey or something. The pie tin goes up by 25%. And she said nobody has to buy an apple pie. It's to celebrate somebody's birthday or a party. And if the price of a tin goes up by 25%, I sell fewer pies. I may have to lay people off. She's been through it in round 1 with Trump's tariffs in the first term. My largest business in Virginia is the shipyard, Huntington Ingalls Shipyard in Newport News. Ships and subs, critical to our nation's security. 35% of the aluminum and steel that are used in U.S. ships and subs comes from Canada. The other 65% is American-made steel. We're having a hard time producing ships and subs on time and on budget now. These tariffs kick in, it's going to get much worse. I'm very, very proud that this is a bipartisan bill. Rand Paul is an original co-sponsor of the bill. He's going to take the floor at 3 o'clock today for a half hour to talk about this. But I'm also proud with the number of stakeholders that have signed on. This morning, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce signed on to support SJ Res 37, the AFL-CIO, the sheet metal workers, the steel workers, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the National Taxpayers Union. Mike Pence started a think tank after he stopped being vice president. I think it's called American Freedom Alliance. They came out yesterday. Vice President Pence's think tank came out to support SJ Res 37. We have support left, right, and center because people don't want Americans to have to struggle to pay more for groceries, pay more for building supplies, pay more for apple pie, for God's sake. I'm really happy to be joined by Senators Alsop-Brick and Senator Welch, and I think Senator Welch might be up next.
He is.
Yeah, thank you very much. Nobody supports tariffs economically. Economists have looked at this, and they don't work, and they do a lot of hurt. So what we have with the Trump policy here is essentially a faith-based economic plan. There's no evidence that it works. There's overwhelming evidence that it fails. And the American people are going to get a history lesson starting very soon about Smoot-Hawley, two names that don't immediately come to mind. But it was just before the recession that the U.S. had the highest tariffs in our history, and those tariffs were put in place by the president who got it wrong and thought this would help us. Well, it helped us usher in the Great Depression. And since then, presidents on both sides of the aisle have steered clear of these trade war tariffs until President Trump. Now, second, we have an affordability crisis in this country. Working families are struggling to pay their bills. And just in Vermont, to make it very concrete, we get a lot of our electricity from Canada. We get a lot of our gasoline in the northern part of Vermont from Canada. We get our home heating fuel from Canada. And those bills for folks are going to go up immediately. Home heating fuel, gasoline, electricity. Why in the world would we do that? The other thing is that Canada's our friend. It's not China. And along the border, where we have decades and decades of mutual respect, we're starting to change that into distrust. And a confident country treats its allies with respect. And these tariffs are going to do direct and immediate economic harm to everyday Vermont families and farmers, maple sugar producers. But it's also going to start eroding the trust that is the benefit of good relations over time. Why in the world would President Trump want to be Smoot-Hawley? That's what he's embracing. Totally bad, totally wrong, doomed, and the only question is how much pain will he inflict on everyday Vermonters before he comes to his senses and withdraws this tariff policy. Thank you.
Senator also Brooks.
Thank you. I want to thank Leader Schumer and Senators Kaine and Welch for being here today. You know, President Trump has dubbed today Liberation Day. And I continue to think how tone deaf and how arrogant it is, because I'm asking myself, for whom? You know, who's liberated? And I think that Elon Musk. Yeah, I think the reality of it is that middle class and hardworking families like the one I grew up in, I regard myself in so many ways as having grown up in a blue-collar family. A father who was a car salesman, a mother who's a receptionist, and the fact of the matter is the people who are being liberated are the billionaires. None of his policies, including these tariffs, anticipate any relief for hardworking and middle-class families. And so those who will be liberated are not us. And furthermore, he went on to say very arrogantly, you know, there's going to be a little pain, some minor pain and disruption, but the people that I represent don't regard increasing cost of groceries, increasing cost of owning a home, increasing cost of owning an automobile as a minor disruption. But it is a minor disruption to billionaires who can certainly not only afford the increasing cost of goods, but who will also enjoy a tax cut on the back end of this. We know that the taxes that we're looking at, the tax cuts will net, we believe, Elon Musk about $50 million in tax cuts over a 10-year period. So the cynical nature of these tariffs is really, really very disturbing. And so I have, my first bill is a Tariff Transparency Act. That has been filed. I'm going to go to the floor today and ask for unanimous consent on. And if it is in fact the case that these tariffs are a minor disruption and this is Liberation Day, we're simply asking this administration and my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to prove it, to be transparent with the American people, to tell us the cost of these tariffs. And I can tell you, I've met in my state with people from every corner of the state. Just a couple of weeks ago, had the opportunity to sit down with farmers. Some were poultry farmers. I met with business owners, and many of them feel betrayed by this administration. The farmers who said, you know what, now not only the retaliatory tariffs will cost so much money. Some were selling chicken parts to other countries, and they've said to me, you know, this is going to cost us money. and they did not anticipate that they would see actions that harmed them as well. And so I want them to prove to us, who does it benefit? That's a question that I think is a fair question, is when he says a little pain, who does he mean? Who should sustain the pain? And I would say it absolutely should not be the middle class and hardworking families of this country who pay for the tax cuts for his billionaire friends and who suffer beneath these tariffs. And so we say, again, if it's a minor disruption, and this is Liberation Day, we just simply want to know who should be liberated. And I think that the Transparency Act will show us that.
We'll take questions on this subject. This subject. Yes.
Quick question. About 3 weeks ago, you said that as Trump becomes more unpopular, that Republicans will wake up and they will start to break from him. Do you think the fact that Republicans are joining Senator Kane's resolution on this shows that Republicans are waking
Well, look,
up?
the number one factor in terms of Trump's unpopularity is the American people. And he is becoming less and less popular, particularly on issues like this, on the economy. His numbers are underwater rather significantly, depending on which poll you do. And once the American people say, I don't want to embrace somebody, I don't want to vote for somebody, I don't want to support somebody who embraces Trump's policies, things begin to change. But public sentiment is everything, and we are letting the public know in every way we can, fighting every day on how bad the Trump policies are for them. Yes, in the back.
A lot of dairy producers in New York and Vermont, and as you know, dairy producers have faced import restrictions in Canada. Is it fair for Trump to use some leverage here to get Canada to reduce its trade barriers on dairy?
Look, are there certain tariffs that make some sense in a specific area where we're being treated unfairly? Yes. But the kind of meat axe, blunderbuss approach that they use across the board on everything and huge amounts is typical of this administration. They don't think things through. You know, I dealt with Trump on tariffs back in 2017 when he was president because I was a hawk on China and so was he. And I met his people. I met this guy Navarro. The guy had no basis of any facts, and he sort of had to leave the administration. Now he's back running the tariff policy. They don't, as Angela talked about, they don't look at the facts. He just gets this idea in his head that it's going to be a good thing and does it, and then he says he doesn't care if the American people pay more. It's crazy.
Chuck, can I say something?
Yes, Tim, please.
Just real quick, what a great question, because the dairy issues I've heard Chuck talk about them. I've heard Tammy Baldwin talk about them. There's a Trump-created mechanism to deal with that problem. The USMCA, negotiated by President Trump, I think it got 89 votes here, heavily bipartisan. Why are they not using the MCA to deal with it? Because they want money for a tax cut.
Yes.
If they used MCA to negotiate the differences, they wouldn't have Peter Navarro saying, we're going to get $6 trillion that we can use for a tax cut. That's the way they should deal with this problem. A Trump-inspired, state-of-the-art trade deal that gives them a mechanism for resolving disputes. The fact that they're throwing that aside and going with tariffs tells you that there's something else going on here.
And in just across-the-board way. You know, now probably when we're treated poorly across the board, like with China, a broader approach might be necessary. When it comes to Canada, when it comes to Mexico, when it comes to Europe, where we have such complicated, intercombined relationships, that kind of approach hurts only one group, the American people, the average American family. On this subject, yes.
Thank you, Leader. What is your response to the President's argument that these tariffs will lead to reshoring of manufacturing overseas and allow for a level playing field for U.S. industry?
Yeah, well, he gets these ideas in his head. He has no proof, and most every study, and these guys know this, has shown that that doesn't happen. Plain and simple. That's the problem. There's no factual basis here. It's a crazy idea in his head that hurts American families and does very little benefit, and in an untargeted way that makes no sense. Yes, in the back there.
Now, House introduced a resolution to challenge the emergency declaration on Mexico as well. Are there plans to do that in the Senate?
Tim?
One at a time. So I did an emergency challenge on the energy emergency last month, and we're all in on Canada. There are different issues. You know, Canada and Mexico are not completely the same. because of some of the issues with respect to fentanyl. So it's different. But let's get this one done, and if we can get this one done and succeed, then we also have to see what President Trump does this afternoon. There may be a whole new series of trade or tariff-related motions coming your way soon.
Lord knows. Yes.
Mr. Leader, as you're saying, the Trump administration says they'll get money from tariffs and use it for tax cuts. This is at the same time as Leader Thune seems to be proposing, as part of reconciliation, a zero baseline for the current tax cuts. The parliamentarians probably have to rule on that, but do you think that that comports with Senate procedure?
Okay, that's a different problem, but another huge problem he's causing. It wasn't the same, but you're so nice. I'm going to entertain it. The bottom line is this. If they go through current policy baseline, it will increase the deficit on the United States by $30 trillion, virtually doubling it. And who's going to pay the price? Us, our children, our grandchildren. It just makes no sense. It's hocus pocus. What Mr. Chip Roy, looking for the beard, Chip Roy called it fairy dust. It's a scam. It's a scam to allow them to get more tax cuts for the wealthy, and it's going to hurt the rest of us. Thank you, everybody.
On Wisconsin, do you think Elon Musk should keep playing in these races?
He's nice too.
There are a number that are still thinking that haven't quit, so there's a little bit of drama today.
There's more, you're saying that, wait a minute, can we ask
No,
you that?
because it's just, there's others who haven't declared, and they're reaching out and asking questions, so I don't know, you have to ask people what their own votes are.
Why are there 4 or so who aren't on board here? I mean, what is their message? Yeah, can we just ask you this? We just want, no, but this is important. If you're going to lose some people on this resolution, Senator.
All right, okay.
Now's the time.
First in Spanish. First in Spanish.
No, solamente le quería preguntar en español, ¿qué piensa que va a ocurrir y cuál va a ser el efecto inmediato?
Tariffs son un impuesto. Tariffs son un impuesto. Entonces vamos a
It's not unilateral right now. Can you,
Oh.
because you can talk to everyone in Spanish.
Oh, no,
Okay.
yeah, he pulled me this way.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Vamos a tener un voto esta tarde sobre los tarifas, y tarifas son impuestos. Okay, all right.
Ahora sí, ahora sí.
Tarifas son impuestos. Vamos a tener un voto esta tarde sobre los impuestos contra Canadá, impuestos que va a causar un gran sufrimiento en nuestra población. Y tenemos un acuerdo bipartidista, vamos a tener votos demócratas y republicanos también. A ver cuántos. Hay un poquito de drama todavía sobre el número de votos, pero tenemos confianza ahorita.
¿Qué daño le está haciendo?
Yeah.
To understand, you have a few people who have some questions here. What's the message to these Democrats who are on the fence about this? Why are they not walking in lockstep?
I think we're going to have Democratic unity on this. I'll say that, and you can ask others. I don't like to summarize people's positions, but I think we'll have Democratic unity.
Democratic unity plus 4 Republicans, doesn't that mean carry it?
Yes, I'd like more, and I have to acknowledge there's going to be a 4:00 press conference today, and the president's going to say a whole lot of other things. So how does that affect it? I feel good, but
Do you believe that if the president introduces broad-based tariffs, that you could have more Republicans join this resolution as a show?
I think it could increase pressure for more to join, and I do know there are some still contemplating what their vote is.
Do you think the fact that he has attacked some of these 4 Republicans on Truth Social affects the calculus at all?
He attacked me too. It doesn't affect me at all. And the ones he's attacked, I don't think it's affecting them at all. So we'll see. Yeah, want to go to a last one? I would say that there's a set of Republican speakers who are going to kind of speak in the 3 to 4:30 range. There's a set of Democratic speakers speaking in the 5 to 6. So I think it'll happen sometime between 6 and 7. That's my sense right now. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Adolfo. Great pooling.